Yo, welcome back, everybody. It's been a while. I think it's been about 6 months. Really, the only reason that I stopped doing this, one, I graduated from Eastern, so I've moved on to bigger and better things in life. Going to pharmacy school, just started that. I'm at Butler, doing it online, so a little more leeway, a little more not time, but I'm able to work, do other things while I'm going to school. So it really just made sense for me. The one thing I haven't been able to do is this podcast, which kind of stinks. I love doing this podcast, even if I mean I've got 58 subscribers, but it's not about that. It's just about hopping on here, just talking about ball, showing everybody that this is what I enjoy. I love sports. Sports is the biggest thing in my life besides like family, friends, God. Um, and I know that's kind of crazy to say, but that's how I've been since I was a little kid. So yeah, I took a little bit of a break. Baseball wasn't a big hit. That video didn't really do very well. I know baseball's a long season too, so like 162 games compared to like an NFL season or a college football season or even a college basketball season. It's just a lot to cover. Even if you're doing a week at a time, there's just so many games. I mean, there's 7 days in a week, and teams play 5 games a week. There's so many stats to cover. Um, but going back to that, I did say that I liked the Cardinals win total to go over this year. It was set at 76.5. They did hit that for me. As always, go Cardinals. Looking forward to the future. JJ Weather holds the truth. Excited for the offseason, though. Excited to see what that team does, where Heim Bloom takes that organization, and just kind of ready to see who the manager is going to be. Um, but topics of today, I mean, I'm not going to really talk about baseball. Baseball's over for me, but not for my friends that are Cubs fans. And good luck to them. That's all I've got to say. So this podcast mainly is college basketball, college football, and the NFL. I don't cover the NBA. I really don't cover the MLB and UFC. I will cover the UFC, but it's not going to be like as much because as much as I like to think that I know a lot about the UFC, I'm kind of a casual. Um, I do watch all of the main events and the main card and some of the undercard, but at the same time, there are teams that I don't exactly know. Um, but topics of today, we're going to cover my favorite team, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Probably going to cover my second favorite team, which is Illinois, and then just college football as a whole. And then we'll move on to the NFL, to the best team in the NFL. We're going to cover them, and just an outlook on that. And then I've got a little funny segment at the very end that some of my friends wanted me to do, so we'll cover that. But I'm going to start with Notre Dame. Notre Dame got a huge win yesterday against Arkansas. Last 2 weeks, Notre Dame's looked a lot better. They started off the year 0-2, as many people know, and as all my friends know and like to clown me about. Lost to Miami by one, or sorry, lost to Miami by 3. Lost to Texas A&M by 1. When you lose by less than a score to two teams, two top 10 teams that could be two top 5 teams after this weekend, you got to give them some grace. But started a freshman quarterback. CJ Carr's looked really good. Notre Dame's usually used to not having like that NFL talent quarterback play. I mean, yeah, you've had like Deshaun Kaiser, Brady Quinn, even going all the way back to like Jimmy Clausen, but never have had like, like a Bryce Young or a Tua or like a Jalen Hurts or Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson. Like we've never had one of those guys. I mean, not that I can remember at least. It's usually carried by, good running backs, good offensive line, good defenses. But that's kind of, while that has been kind of the story this year, I think CJ Carr's getting a little overlooked. I mean, this dude went out in a hostile environment with 77,000 fans for an Arkansas team that's not very good, but did go on the road at Ole Miss and lose by 6 and had a chance to win that game. So, with that being said, just looking at yesterday for Notre Dame, I mean, I personally believe that Notre Dame has the two best running back tandem duo in college football. I was talking to Brevin about this last night. But Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price are just absolutely two game-changing running backs. I mean, when you have, a 1A, 1B, where Jeremiah Love is obviously going to go in the top, I think, 15 picks, top 20 picks in the NFL draft this year. But when you have another change of pace running back that comes in that's not even a step behind, yesterday, Jadarian Price, Jeremiah Love carries are split 14-13 with a slight advantage to Jeremiah Love. But Jeremiah Love did hold like 73% of the snap share. But Jadarian Price runs for 86 yards, has one touchdown, had a big run, a big 20-yard run. Whereas Jeremiah Love, he was used a little bit more in the pass game. He's more the pass catching back. He's more the guy that Notre Dame wants to get the ball into his hands and let him get in space and let him make plays. That dude is elusive. He can make anybody in this world miss. That's why I think he's a top. I personally think he's a top 5, top 10 talent in this coming NFL draft, and that anybody who drafts him is getting that Reggie Bush-esque player. Obviously, he's not Reggie in college, but he could be better than Reggie in the NFL. But Love has 14 carries, rushes for 57 yards, and has 2 touchdowns in the first half rushing. And if anybody watched this game, Jeremiah Love also had 5 catches for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first half. Jeremiah Love did not play more than 2 minutes into the second half. He played 1 drive. But I think the biggest story of this game, well, not the biggest story. The biggest story was the defense. After getting completely shelled on defense, kind of moving in. So we went from Al Golden, who's now the DC of the Cincinnati Bengals, who could get fired. Wouldn't mind him coming back to the South Bend. We brought in Chris Ash from Rutgers. He plays a lot of zone coverage. He's a main zone coverage type of defensive coordinator, whereas Al Golden was a heavy man-to-man. Last year, Notre Dame ran 93% man. It was the highest in the college football. This year, not as much. We didn't run man against Miami. Carson Beck kind of found those pockets, opened up the run game for him, and they just kind of just tore us apart on defense. You could tell that we didn't look like we were the Notre Dame of last year, where this team was, putting clamps on Penn State, Georgia. Ohio State kind of got after us for a little bit, but towards the end, got stops, made the game close, gave us a chance to even tie the game, gave us a chance to come back down and potentially force it to overtime. But yesterday, one of the biggest key stories is Leonard Moore. He was out again this week. He's nursing an ankle injury. He is a very, very good shutdown corner. He is definitely our best corner. And when you don't have your best corner, that's a cause for concern. And that cornerback room is not super deep. Besides Leonard Moore and Christian Gray, it's a couple sophomores, it's a couple freshmen, redshirt freshmen that are playing, that are stepping up in big-time roles. Obviously, you still have Drake. You obviously still have Drake Bowen, who's the man in the middle. You still got Bryce Young, who's a force off the edge. And then you've got a mix of other guys that are just complete game changers when they get the opportunity. But just looking at a couple stats for this week, or for this Notre Dame team, you're putting up 44 points of total offense. Now, with that being said, you did just put up 56 on Arkansas. So that number's a little skewed, probably closer to like 40, 37-ish. But we're not used to that. We're not used to Notre Dame putting up big time numbers on offense like that. It's usually control the clock, run the ball, go tempo when you need to, but it's never like, hey, you're never worried about Notre Dame scoring 60 points, 70 points. You're more worried about the other team scoring 14, 21, not 28. They hold them to that. They turn teams over. And that was the biggest thing about last year. Our turnover margin was huge through the first 9 games, besides the NIU game, which Starting the year 0-2 is never good, but when you lose to two teams that could potentially win their conferences, this gives you an opportunity to still sneak in the college football playoff. You're in a similar spot to last year, losing to NIU. Now, these losses are quality losses. One is on the road at Miami. The other one, I don't personally think is a quality loss, at home against Texas A&M. When you have a chance to go to overtime, and I'm not a kind of guy that's going to sit and complain about, like, make excuses like, oh, there was a holding call on the last play. Oh, there was a legal man downfield. Oh, this, that, and the other. Notre Dame lost. You dropped an extra point. You didn't execute. You let Marcel Reed run down the field and score. It's over. I mean, it was a hard loss for Notre Dame fans. And it's not like I ever lost faith in this team. It's just you got to move on the next week. You got to just keep playing. Just win out and see what happens. That's all you have to do. And that's what this Notre Dame team is starting to do. I mean, CJ Carr has been phenomenal the last couple of games. I mean, yesterday throws for 354 and doesn't play the entire fourth quarter. Just has looked really good for the time being. I mean, you got a kid that made his first career start against a Miami team that's probably got a top 5, top 10 defense, and still goes out there and throws for more than Carson Beck. Has 2 touchdowns, had 1 really bad interception, and he had a rushing touchdown. I mean, the kid's got moxie. He's going to be good. In 2 years, this kid, I personally think, could be, if we continue to do the same things on offense and if we continue to produce good wide receivers, which is also another thing that Notre Dame is not usually like super keen on. I mean, you've got your Golden Tates, you got your Malcolm Floyds. I mean, you've got Chase Claypool, but like, once again, if you could name an NFL wide receiver that went to Notre Dame that is like a top 10, top 15 NFL wide receiver, I would probably take my hat off and say, yeah. We're now, if you could name a top 5, top 10 offensive lineman in the NFL that went to Notre Dame, I would say, yeah, yep, we probably got 2 or 3 of those. But it's going to be interesting. This team's looked better as of late. We played more man coverage yesterday, which is what I want to see. I think Notre Dame is a man coverage team. But obviously, you have to also throw in those wrinkles. You got to let Chris Ash do his own thing. You can't make him be Al Golden. But at the same time, Marcus Freeman's got to pull back those strengths, be like, hey, this is our identity. Same way that like Mike Denbrock knows that we are a running football team first. Control the clock, but when you can, play action pass, air that thing out, pick up the yards that you need. But one of the biggest stories for me to start the year is the regression, I would say, of Jaden Greathouse. A lot of people know that in the college football playoff, this dude had back-to-back 100-yard games. Basically, pretty much brought us back in the Penn State game by himself. When everything looked pretty grim, got some stops on defense, and Jaden Greathouse just completely took over, had an 89-yard run to the house where he juked out 2 defenders, completely changed the tide of that game. But he, so far, up until yesterday, had 2 catches on the year through 3 games. And that might be just a disconnect between him and CJ Carr, but he's got to get going. It looks like right now CJ Carr's favorite target is Malachi Fields, transfer from Virginia, who has looked really good. He's a big wide receiver who is he kind of looks like a jump ball wide receiver to me. But at the same time, when you have a guy that's 6'4", 223, throw the ball up to him, let him make a play. He's your sure hands guy. But Jordan Faison has looked phenomenal. And I know I tell all my friends the Jordan Faison story. So Jordan Faison is a lacrosse player at Notre Dame who walked on the football team and was just our like punt returner for the longest time and was a kickoff guy. He's now like our wide receiver 1/2. But he has looked phenomenal. I mean, the kid has just been he has been putting up numbers every game. I mean, he gets a lot of screen passes, has a lot of catches. I mean, yesterday 7 for 89 yards, no touchdowns, but um, he's just one of those guys where he's got a lot of grit. He does all the like little things. He is a big receiver whenever we run those screen passes. Him and Fields just absolutely block their tails off, and gives the opportunity for other guys to make plays. I know that yesterday him and Malachi Fields and Jordan Faison basically opened up the entire lane for Jeremiah Love to score his big screen pass touchdown, and that's good. I mean, when you're able to do that for a young quarterback, especially, that's huge. Um, but an outlook on just the entire college football yesterday, some crazy games. One of the best weekends in college football. I mean, I didn't get to sit down and watch the majority of the games. I was off doing other things, which is like a cardinal sin for me. Usually I spend Saturdays and Sundays doing homework, but also watching a lot of football. But you obviously had Ohio State going on the road against Washington. They won handedly. They didn't look great in the first half, but at the same time, their defense, helped them out, bailed them out. Offense didn't look too good, but ended up getting a win 24-6. That team looks good. Their defense, I've said it all along, they've got a top 1 to 2 defense in the entire nation, and they're playing phenomenal ball. Probably the biggest game of the week was Oregon and Penn State. That's where College Game Day was at. That game was back and forth. It was a little boring in the middle parts. There was a lot of just defense, but ends up going to OT. Oregon ends up pulling that game out 30-24. Drew Aller looks not like he's ready for the NFL. I know everybody says, oh, he's 6'5". Oh, he's got the build of a Justin Herbert-esque quarterback. The dude makes so many bad reads. And yeah, you'll see on Twitter the throw where he slips and he throws a complete dart to some wide receiver. But I don't buy it. I also don't buy the James Franklin hype. That's Mr. Born on Third Base, gifted a great program that he is yet to win a big game. I mean, you look at his resume and yeah, he's a great coach, and they make a lot they go to the Big Ten championship every once in a while, maybe every other year, if not every year. I mean, with a team that good, they should make it to the college football playoffs every year. They should have. I mean, last year they made it, got there, got beat by Notre Dame once again off of a Drew Aller pick. But the one thing that I don't buy, and I might just be a hater, but Nick Singleton and Katron Allen are just not the best tandem duo in college football. That was the preseason hype, was that they've got 2 All-American running backs. I don't buy it. And of course, I'm just a hater, but and then another big upset, which we'll edge on this game. LSU Ole Miss. I know that the majority of people will know, but unless you're living under a rock the last week, Lane Kiffin, head coach for Ole Miss, his daughter is now dating the starting middle linebacker for LSU. And Lane put on Twitter, take the over on this game. The over did not hit. That's just the easiest thing to say. But Ole Miss ends up winning in a pretty, I would consider this a pretty easy win for Ole Miss. I mean, it didn't ever look like LSU was going to really pull away or do anything. I mean, Ole Miss kind of controlled the game the entire time. But at the same time, Ole Miss jumps in the top 10. They might jump in the top 8. I think Penn State slides. I think Penn State, Oregon probably just flip. I think Penn State goes to 6, Oregon goes to 3, Ohio State stays 1, Miami probably stays 2, with not playing this week. I think Ole Miss does jump into that, like, top 8 range. Obviously, you had Georgia, Bama. I think Georgia slides a little bit. I think that they could potentially be, like, that number 8-ish, 9-ish team. Um, and I think Bama jumps pretty high. But Bama does have a bad loss, to Florida State, who we will get to in a little bit. A&M, one of the teams that I think is really, really good this year. I've said this kind of all along. Marcel Reed's playing at a really high level. Their offensive line looks really good. They've got 2 really good receivers, and that defense is legit. They beat Auburn, which Auburn is Auburn. They haven't looked the same for a little bit now. I mean, they haven't looked like the Auburn that I grew up watching for a while. But they go on the road, beat Auburn 16-10 in a not so back and forth, just kind of a boring game. Wasn't really fun to watch. But I think A&M jumps in the top 8 with Georgia losing, LSU losing, Penn State losing. I mean, and Florida State losing, which we'll get to that. And then the next big game, Indiana goes on the road at Iowa, which, like I said earlier, my second team that I root for, just kind of my hometown team, about 30 minutes from Champaign, probably about an hour actually. They destroyed Illinois at home last weekend. I was at the game, and Illinois looked horrible. With that being said, Indiana looked great. Indiana goes on the road in a sort of a trap game after a big win and kind of lays an egg for almost 4 quarters. They end up winning 20-15, but Iowa had the ball with like 2 minutes left, missed a field goal, and it kind of turned the tide. And Indiana ends up squeaking one out, which a win's a win. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter if you win by 1 or if you win by 100. A win's a win. But it's not really a convincing win. I don't know if Indiana goes in the top 8 after beating an Iowa team that they probably shouldn't, not necessarily should have lost to, but that game is a little bit different. If Iowa makes that field goal, kind of puts a little bit more pressure on Indiana. But when you're able to just run your offense when you're still tied, you're okay. Because at the the game was 13-13. In Iowa misses the field goal, Indiana scores, and then Indiana gets the ball back, takes a safety. That's what makes it 20-15. But the spread on this game was horrendous for a lot of bettors, because I know a couple of guys that had Indiana minus 6.5, and they obviously win by 5 because they took a safety. Vegas made some money there. And then a couple other big games. Iowa State looked phenomenal against Arizona. Iowa State's a good team. They're a dark horse this year. They could really make a run at the Big 12, potentially get into the college football playoff. Rocco Beck's playing at a high level. That team's rolling. Tennessee goes on the road to a good Mississippi State team that probably should be ranked. Probably won't be now that they're that they lost, but they lost in overtime to Tennessee. But once again, Tennessee, bad clock management at the end of the game. Doesn't call a timeout with like 13 seconds left on the 40-yard line, and just kind of runs another play and ends up with like 4 seconds left or 9 seconds left, and then another incompletion, and they've got 4 seconds left, and they just have to check a ball to the end zone, and they go to overtime. They score, they win. Ball hits the Mississippi State receiver right in the hands. He drops it, and the game's over. But it's a good Mississippi State team. That's a good win for Tennessee on the road at a good Mississippi State team. Georgia Tech, probably the front runner now in the ACC that Florida State has lost. They go on the road at a bad Wake Forest team and barely squeak out a win in overtime by 1. I'm not sold on Georgia Tech. I know they beat Clemson, blah, blah, blah. Clemson's horrible. Clemson is horrible. They were so overhyped. I've said from the start of the year, Clemson is not going to win the college football national championship. A lot of people were high on Clemson. I think Cade Klubnik is an okay quarterback. Him and Drew Aller, and honestly, Garrett Nussmeier, Aller, Klubnik, they're all kind of in the same boat for me. It's like those guys that the last two years, 3 years have been super hyped to start the year. And they just kind of like play mediocre, play okay. They don't really play great. But Georgia Tech ends up winning. Vandy, number 18, Vandy, they go to Utah State and win by 20. Shout out Von Black. He had 20 and a half. And they end up winning by 20. Now, the biggest story for me this week is what Missouri is doing. Number 20, Missouri, who has Bo Prabula. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I don't really know how to say those names. He is putting on a clinic and kind of showing James Franklin, like, hey, I think you made the wrong decision keeping Aller and not starting me. I mean, this kid's he's doing work in the SEC right now. Now they played UMass, but at the same time, his stats compared to Aller's stats are night and day. I mean, he's looked phenomenal this year. But I'm not really going to talk about that. It's a UMass team that scores 6 points. They win 42-6. Big game of the week in the Big Ten. USC travels the number 23 Illinois. Illinois kind of needs a get back after kind of getting torn up by an Indiana team. They end up squeaking one out, 34-32. But this game was not that close. Notre Dame, Illinois fumbled on the goal line twice. I know all my friends are frustrated by it. It's just like, your defense is giving up a lot of points. Now, USC, let's call an orange and orange. They've always been known to have good offense. They've always been known since Lincoln Riley's been there to have a pretty crappy defense. That's just how it is. USC is just USC. They've got a high potent offense, but their defense is going to give up 30. And they gave up 34 and Illinois wins. It's a big win for Illinois. It's a big resume building win to win a home game against a top 25 team when you're 6.5 point dogs. That's huge. I mean, six and a half points at home is kind of a slap in the face when you're a top 25 ranked team. But at the same time, you end up winning a game. One of the weird things that I didn't like about yesterday, and I shouldn't say I didn't like, I thought it was a little weird, was the field storming. I know it's homecoming. I know it's a big win, but at the same time, like, you didn't beat a top 10 team. You didn't beat a top 5 team. You're ranked 2 spots below them. You're going to jump them this week. They might be out of the top 25 if just barely on the cusp. But just like in basketball, if you're a top 10 team or if you're a top 25 team and you beat a top 25 team that's not in like the top 15, don't storm the court. Don't storm the field. Like, act like you've been there before. But big win for Illinois. Happy for my friends that are Illinois fans. That's a big resume building win. That boosts you up a little bit after the kind of ass whooping that Indiana gave you. A big win. And then the last game that I kind of got to watch a little bit of, BYU number 25 barely beats Colorado by 3. Kind of a back and forth game. Colorado just continues to look like a trash can that's just on fire. Once again, just an overhyped team. I think Deion's a great NFL player, great college football player. I don't necessarily know if he's a great college football coach. That team just continues to underperform for like the 4th straight year. And then probably the biggest upset of the week, Virginia goes on the road at Florida State and beats Florida State. It beats them Virginia beats them at and that is a horrible loss for them. I mean, that is like a season-killing loss to lose to an unranked Virginia team when you were a top 8 team in the nation who has beat Bama. It just kind of goes to show you that, like I've always said, any given week, any given time, whoever comes out and lays the first punch, they've got a chance to win. I mean, you come out and sock a team in the mouth, kind of show them that, hey, we might not be ranked. Hey, we might not have all the fancy things, and we might not have the Heisman, quarterback that could be. We can still play with you guys, and that's kind of my biggest outtake on like the ACC and Big 12. We have not really seen, whereas like the Big 10 and sort of the SEC. The SEC, you kind of know like these teams are going to beat up on these teams. That's kind of how they are every year. But there's not really an outlier in those two conferences right now. Like everybody picked Clemson to win it in the beginning of the year, but like Clemson's not going to win the ACC unless they end up miraculously getting in like they did last year. Um, and so Florida State losing this game, one, makes Bama look worse. I know they just beat Georgia at Georgia, but like you lose, like Florida State losing to a unranked team is really bad. That looks really, really, really bad. But look ahead to next week for college football. There's not really that many great games. I know Indiana plays at Oregon, which will be a fun game. That probably will be where game day goes. I know that they were just at Oregon not too long ago. But at the same time, it's probably the only really good game next week. So we'll see. And then just, switching gears, going to look at the NFL. Obviously, you got NFL games today. But I'm going to talk first about the Bears, which is obviously my team. Oh, man. Bears, the Bears, the Bears. Just never not going to be like, oh, we're good again. Oh, we suck again. Just kind of how it is. Caleb Williams looked great last week. Throws for 4 touchdowns, throws just under 300 yards. Kind of had have seen the breakout and the emergence of Rome Odunze as the wide receiver one. You beat a Dallas team that was down basically their top 2 corners. They got a lot of guys injured. CD gets injured in the first drive of the game, which, by the way, don't ever put your best player, wide receiver, anything at a running back position and run the ball with a guy that's not a running back unless it's a sweep. Don't just hand it off to him. But CD's out for like the next 3 or potentially 4 games. That really hinders that Dallas team. But convincing win, 31-14. That's a big win for the Bears. That's a big resume builder for Ben Johnson, his first career win as a head coach. But you also have 2 really, really like not great losses. And that kind of hurts you. Obviously, they play the Raiders today. The Bears are actually underdogs in this game, which is a little weird to me. I know that we've only won 1 game, and it was against a Dallas team that was kind of plagued with a little bit of injuries. But at the same time, the Raiders have looked horrible. They have not looked very good. So I'm a little confused. I'm like, what does Vegas know that I don't know? But we'll see. We'll see which Caleb Williams we get. Are we going to get the one that's consistent, crisp, looks really good, sits in the pocket, doesn't really, have those happy feet where he starts just running around chucking the ball every which way, kind of sits there and delivers the ball to his receivers? Or are we going to get the Caleb Williams against like the Lions and the Vikings that runs out of the pocket too quick, ends up throwing like just inaccurate balls? That's where this dude's got all the arm talent in the world. We saw it on the big pass, the flea flicker to Rome, but he's got to be more consistent in the short to medium game. He's got to be able to hit, the guys when they're open. He's got to be able to hit them. He can't just throw an inaccurate ball, throw it to the sideline, throw it in the dirt. I see that a lot. He throws a lot of balls that are either short in the dirt or just not in the area of the receiver. He's got to be crisp. This Raiders defense is not great by any means, but you obviously have Mad Max Crosby. He's going to be, you got to slide side to him every time. You got to send 2. You got to, if you got to keep Komet in there to help chip, you got to do whatever you can to get that guy off his game, or he's going to wreak havoc against the offensive line the whole game. And, I mean, if that happens, it's going to be grim for the Bears. Now, The NFL as a whole right now, we're seeing a little bit of separation, not a lot. It's really weird right now. Like the Chiefs and Ravens, one of those teams is going to be 1-3 after today, which is just crazy. If they're both, they were both preseason, probably top five, top 10. I'd say probably top five teams in the NFL. They play today. It's going to be probably a shootout, but it's at Arrowhead. I do think that I probably lean a little bit more towards the Ravens, but at the same time, it's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes and Arrowhead. The biggest story of last week was probably the Browns beating the Packers, which I laughed because that was just like completely out of the blue. It felt like the Packers pretty much controlled that game the entire time and just kind of like fumbled and like just didn't really do their job towards the end of the game. I mean, Love throws a bad interception that ends up turning into a touchdown, and then they they block an extra point, and the Browns end up winning, or they block a field goal and the Browns end up winning. Just craziness. I mean, it's just how quickly momentum and how quickly the NFL shifts is just it's so different than college where it's like even if you're down, you can still come back. You can keep that momentum, like you can get the momentum right back. The NFL, it just swings and it swings so hard that it's just over. It's over when it's over. I mean, week one, you saw that Bills Ravens. I mean, the Bills got down, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh, there's a stop. Oh, there's a touchdown. Now they're down 2 scores. Oh, there's another stop. Oh, Derrick Henry fumbles. Oh, wow. Now the Bills won. And it's just crazy. The NFL is just a whole different animal than college, where it's like teams go up big in college and they just never, I mean, you hardly ever see like a team that's up huge just kind of fumble it away. And it's just college kids aren't as consistent as these high prized NFL like players. They make mistakes. They don't, they're younger kids. They're not pro talent level players. You might have a couple on some teams, or you might have a lot like Ohio State, who has a lot of NFL ready guys. But at the same time, you just don't see leads like the Ravens had slip away in college, unless it's like two really, really good teams that are just, like last night's Bama Georgia game is a great example. There was never at any point in time did I think that Georgia was ever out of that game, even being down 14-0. There was never a point in time where I was like, "Oh, this game's over." Um, it's just not that way in college. The NFL, it's a little different, but at the same time, like you can when you have good teams win. That's just how it is in the NFL. Um, but as a whole, right now, the Seahawks have looked pretty good through the first 4 weeks. They beat the Cardinals on Monday night or on Thursday night. They beat them by 3 on the road. It's a good win for them. Cardinals kind of still look like the same Cardinals that we've seen for like the last Kyler Murray years. Um, but you do have one game live right now. The Steelers are playing in Dublin against the Vikings, who are down JJ McCarthy. They're winning right now at the half, 14-6. Um, not a whole lot to look into that game. Steelers are playing against the backup quarterback, but the Steelers have looked pretty good this year. I mean, I know that I hate to say it, but I shouldn't say good. They've looked all right. They're not a team that I'm really like worried about making a huge run, unless Rodgers turns into MVP Rodgers, which he hasn't looked bad, but at the same time, he is over 40 and he does look like he's rolling out in a wheelchair when he rolls outside the pocket. But he still is Aaron Rodgers. He still is a former MVP. He's still got a little bit of that juice left. Um, but some really good games today. Jackson Dart making his first start at home against the Chargers. That's going to be a fun game to watch. The Commanders are playing the Falcons. Commanders are without Jaden Daniels again this week. Won pretty convincingly last week, but the Falcons looked horrible against the Panthers. Didn't score a point just for an offense that has a lot of weapons. I mean, when you have Michael Penix, Bijan, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, I mean, you've got a bunch of weapons, and to not score a single point is you sit there and say, oh, that's kind of a testament to how good the Panthers are on defense, or do you say that's just the Falcons having a horrible day and being inconsistent, being young? You don't know. Probably the other good game of the noon slate is Eagles Bucks. That's gonna be a really good game. Bucks are down Mike Evans, but at the same time, Chris Godwin is back. We'll see how much he plays. He'll probably be pretty limited, coming back from the nasty injury from last year. Um, and then another trap-ish game. I don't personally think so, but you can't really tell with the Browns. I mean, they're not really like getting blown out in any of these games. They're kind of just like riding their defense and letting Joe Flacco kind of just be Joe Flacco. But I do think the Lions win. It's just a weird game where it's like, well, the Browns did just beat the Packers last week, but at the same time, are we really looking that deep into it? I mean, it's a weird game. You know, the Browns are 1-2. They got beat up by the Ravens, and I mean, they got beat by one by the Bengals. It's like, well, maybe we shouldn't sell off the Browns as quick, but I still think they're horrible. Um, Looking at other games, probably the biggest story of the year so far is the Colts starting 3-0 and just looking like one of the best teams through the first 3 weeks. I mean, Daniel Indiana Jones has looked phenomenal. Kind of showing Giants like, hey, maybe you shouldn't have gave up on me so quick. But they play at the Rams. I think the Rams are the Rams. I think they're a very good team. Obviously, a good offense. They're young on defense. We'll see what they do. I personally think the Rams win, but at the same time, you never know. And then as far as the 3 o'clock slate, that's the first game. Obviously, you have the Bears and the Raiders, and then the big game, Ravens Chiefs, and then Sunday Night Football. The Packers are traveling to Dallas. Micah Parsons returned to Dallas. I think that the Packers are probably going to get after Dallas, if I'm being honest. I think Mike is gonna have a little bit of that edge, kind of show Jerry like, hey, this is why you should have never traded me. This is why you should have paid me, which I know they tried, but obviously it is what it is. But Cowboys are without CD this week. They did get Bland and Diggs back, so it'll be interesting to see. That'll be a fun game to watch. And then you've got two games on Monday night. You've got the Jets and Dolphins, which might be the lowest attending game of the year, and also the lowest attendance for people that are watching the game, besides people that are betting on the game. Unless you're a Jets or Dolphins fan, that game probably isn't going to be that great. But the Jets do get Justin Fields back. Be interesting to see how he plays. Obviously, didn't play the last 2-ish weeks with a concussion. Got knocked out in the Buffalo game, and then didn't play last week. And then probably the better game of the two, Bengals Broncos. Not really great game. Burrow's obviously out. I think the Broncos pretty much handle this game at Denver, so we'll see. Obviously, this is just way, way, way before that game even gets close to being played. But at the same time, a lot of okay games. I wouldn't say this is a great week if you're not a football fan to watch the NFL. I mean, there's a couple good games that might turn the tide for you being a fan, but at the same time, there's nothing that's like, holy, like crap, this is a great weekend. Like yesterday would have been a great weekend to watch college football. This is probably not a great weekend to watch the NFL. But who knows? There could be good games. Last weekend was fun. There's a lot of good games, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And then last segment of the day, I know I've been on here for about 45 minutes, but at the same time, don't want to keep everybody on here super long on their Sunday. So I'm going to do a segment that's fairly new that I'm going to start doing every week. I'm probably going to pull my friends into it. But our last segment is going to be like my favorite bets of the weekend. So this week, so far with football, I've been 3-0. Made some good change. So this is what I'm going to call Bryce's not gambling advice. So here is my money line / spread parlay of the 12 o'clock games for today. Philly, I think they beat the Eagles, or Philly, I think the Eagles beat the Bucks. That's A game where I don't necessarily like the spread. I kind of just like the team to win. Chargers, I know this is Jackson Dart's first start, and I think he could play really well, but at the same time, the Chargers have looked pretty good. I think they win this game by 7, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jackson Dart, throws a little darty in the end zone today and has a great game. Buffalo, the Saints, Spencer Rattler could become one of 4 quarterbacks ever to start his career off 0-10. It's pretty bad. I think he does. I think Buffalo gets after them at Buffalo. I've got them minus 14. I've got them minus 2 touchdowns. New England playing the Patriots, or New England, the Patriots playing the Panthers. I think that's a pretty good game for the Patriots to win, a pretty good resume builder for Vrabel. I think if May gets off to a good start, I think that defense will be good enough to keep Carolina out of the end zone for the majority of the time. And you just never know which Carolina Panthers team you're going to see show up. Is it going to be the team that where Bryce Young just kind of looks like a bust, or is it going to be where Bryce Young leads them to a 20-point win? You don't know, and that's kind of the risk you take with gambling. And then the last spot on this slip, the Commanders and Falcons game. I've got this going over 41.5. I slightly do not like 43.5. I just think of it logically about like, okay, do I think these two teams could score 3 touchdowns apiece? Probably. I mean, Falcons have a good offense. Commanders obviously have a good offense. Commanders obviously have a good defense, and the Falcons obviously have a pretty good defense. You never know. But this is just like one of the fun little legs that I decided to put together into a parlay. $10 will win you 155. Not gambling advice. And then as far as player props go, this is for the noon games, obviously. I like to do these a lot. These are probably like my favorite things to do. I found pretty good success on this. It's just finding like 3, 4, 5 players, getting to that like plus 300 range. And usually I would throw like usually if you get the plus 300 same game parlay, you can throw like a 50% boost on it. Usually gets you to about, if you put 20 on it, usually gets you about $100. But didn't have a boost today, so I just decided to roll with it. Ladd McConkey, the Giants really don't have like a shutdown corner to answer. They could get after Herbert in the pass rush, but we really haven't seen that Ladd McConkey breakout game that we saw a lot last year. So I think he gets 50 receiving yards. Obviously, this is altered down pretty big, but at the same time, not gambling advice. James Cook, 50 yards rushing against the Saints. I just think that the Bills are going to go up big. I think it's going to be run the ball. So I think that Cook easily hits this. And then probably my scariest leg, in my opinion, because I think Ladd does fine. I think James Cook does good. Gibbs versus a good Cleveland Browns defense. I know it's at home. I know the Lions are coming off a big win last week where both the running backs kind of really took over. But I think he rushes for 50 yards. Just kind of plain and simple. I think, once again, Lions, I think they can, get in front of these guys and just kind of run the ball right on Gibbs and Montgomery and just kind of run away with this one. And then my last leg, Drake London, 50 receiving yards against the Commanders. Commanders are an interesting team. They've obviously got like they've got a pretty decent defensive line, but at the same time, their secondary isn't great. So I think that, Penix, this is a bounce back game, kind of throws the ball around, spreads it out a little bit. And I think London goes over 50 receiving yards. So this one, obviously, not as high of odds. So like usually if it's anything over 500, I'm only going to probably throw like 10% of whatever my bank account on my app is. But if it's plus 300 or less, it's usually 20 or 25. I don't usually bet anything over 50. I don't think I've ever thrown $100 on anything, just because I like to try and be financially responsible. Obviously, gambling is not financially responsible. So I threw 1950 on this one. That's basically because Caesars. Thank you, Mr. JB, for taxing all of the sports betting. So I obviously threw 1950, but it was actually $19.75. That was just the odd change that I had in my account. So I just decided to do 1950, 25 cents for every bet, so it goes up to 1975, and now I'm at a even amount of money in the account, which I don't like to see the change, and I don't like to see anything that's not a 5 or a 0. So I decided to throw 1950 on that. So 1950 at plus 301, win you $78.25. And then obviously, if one of these doesn't hit, probably look at the 3 o'clock games. I usually just do, a 12 o'clock parlay, a 3 o'clock parlay, and the Sunday night football. And then probably if none of those hit, probably stay away from the Monday night football games and just look into next week. But obviously, this is not gambling advice. My friends are better gamblers than I am. A couple of them are really they're sharp. Pretty good at this. My fantasy football league is doing every week. Whoever scores the lowest amount of points gives $5, and the other 11 guys get to pick a touchdown scorer. So far, we are 0-3. Have not gotten close. Feels like every week we can't even get the wheels to start rolling. So we'll see how this week goes. We got another one in. I might show that next week and just kind of laugh about who picked what and just see how we did. But obviously, one of the big things at the end of all my podcasts, I do kind of like a shout out of the week, or shout out to like a person, a team, anything like that. So this week, I'm gonna go ahead and shout out my alma mater. Go Panthers, go EIU. They got a big win against Western Illinois yesterday, got back in the win column. Not really been the season they wanted to start, but 1-0 in conference play. It's big for them. Still pretty close with a lot of guys down there, so that's awesome for them. Love it. Got to watch a little bit of the game. Look good, and I mean, go Panthers, baby. I know that a lot of my friends now just crack me up whenever they do the EIU chant, and I just kind of just like shake my head and laugh because it's funny how your friends can just obviously put a smile on your face because they do some stupid shit like that. So, but looking forward to next week. Probably be about the same time. I like to get on here, get up early, do this on a Sunday, just kind of recap, decompress about all my thoughts about the week. And yeah, so this is obviously back on. We're going to do this every Sunday until the end of the NFL, college football, college basketball season. Unless obviously I'm swamped with schoolwork, then I won't be on here. But I appreciate everybody that's kind of stuck with me. My subscriber count hasn't gone down at all. I still am hoping to see that we get views. And I'm still going to keep doing this even if I get one view. I mean, this is something that I find enjoyment in. Try and get some of the guys on here next week. I know that they love doing this, love talking about football. And just sit on here for an hour, talk about football, talk about sports, just kind of give our thoughts. It's kind of what guys like to do. I know last night a group of us just sat and named all the Blitnikoff, all of the Heisman, all of the best running back, all of the best defensive player. We sat there for like 3 hours and just sat and named and tried to name all of those players. So hopefully when we all turn 25, or unless you're 28, you know who you are. Hopefully when we all turn 25, our frontal lobe will fully develop and we will all be working nice jobs and not be sitting in a basement naming the Blitnikoff winners. But if we are, I won't be upset. I'll probably be pretty happy. So thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I can't thank you guys enough for just being on here, watching this. It's cool to see when my friends talk to me about it, talk to me about my bad takes. But I just appreciate everybody that even comes in and watches this live, and the people that watch it after the fact, thank you. I appreciate it. And everybody have a blessed Sunday. Have a blessed week. We start October next week. So I just hope that everybody is in good spirits, good graces. And I hope everybody takes care. So until next week, see you guys.